And hello, Ravi. You're up next.
Hey, Bart, how are you?
How's it going, Ravi? So you got a question about a rake or drop setup in the local casino that you play at. Is that correct?
No, it's not local. I
Oh,
travel to DC quite a
okay.
bit, so I play at MGM National Harbor.
Okay. So it's at MGM National Harbor. And what is your question?
So I go there and I see 1-3 running, 2-5 running, and I'm tempted to play 2-5 all the time because of your advice. Because where I live, I usually don't get 2-5. It is always 1-2 or 1-3. But I played 2-5 over there and multiple times. And in the typical setup, I see that there is a $15 raise first in, and there are usually one or two callers. And whenever I play 1-3, the same scenario happens where the pre-flop raise is $15 and you get two or three callers. Now, the difference between these two games is that 1-3 is a 500 max buy-in, whereas 2-5 is $1,000 max buy-in. The rake is $5 or 10% plus $3 for all their promotional drops.
Uh huh.
So my question is, which game would you advise to play and why? Because I know your advice has always been to move to the $5 blind as soon as possible because of the rake considerations.
Right. So I've tried to put this up on the screen as best as I possibly can. So basically, what you're saying is you go to MGM National Harbor. So you get 2-5 as an option, which is a 1K max. And what you've noticed is that the typical open size is to 3x, and it's maybe one, maybe two callers. At 1-3, which is a 500 max buy-in, it's the same open size to 15, and you get two to three callers. The rake is the same in both games, which of course is somewhat standard in live poker until you get up to the time games, which is 10% up to $5 in both games. But this is a hybrid rake. They have $3 in flat drop promotions in both games. So these are what, like high hand promotions, stuff like that? Bad beat
High
jackpot.
hand motion,
Yeah.
backbeat. Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. I'm gonna simplify this because I got a question like this last year and I actually washed over it. You're not getting 100% back from the promotions drops here because the house gets to take an administrative fee. So whenever you get a drop for a bad beat jackpot or a high hand promotion, depending on the state, the house has a right to take some of that as an administrative fee. I don't know how much it is. I felt like in California it was a lot. It might have been like 50%, but let's just to simplify it, let's just say that you get all that money back. Now there's variance in that, but let's just say that that's actually not the cost. They're giving that money to you back. Then that actually becomes relevant if you're getting that money back if they pay out the same amount for all the jackpots, which I think that they do. It's costing you $3 at 1-3, it costing you 2-5, but it's not like you only get a certain portion of that at 1-3. So then it just comes down to, okay, well, it's a rake, which is better than a drop of 10% up to $5. Anytime you're playing in a lower game, the rake is going to be a more of a consideration because it's just more of a percentage of average effective stacks. But a rake is a better setup than a flat drop. Where I always say it's absolutely a race to the $5 blind level is in flat drop games, which is all of California, where you'll get a setup like this where the 1-3 game will take $5 post flop, no matter how big the pot is, as will the 2-5 game. And that will absolutely eat you alive at 1-3. That will absolutely eat you alive at 1-3. It's a huge consideration because you can see the difference in the percentage, right? Here, it's still a little bit of a consideration, but at least if you're playing small pots, it's not a consideration because it's a percentage up to the cap, meaning if it's 10% at 2-5 and it's 10% at 1-3, they're still taking the 10% of, say, like $30. It's still $3. Now, maybe it should be a smaller percentage at 1-3 because the effective stacks are smaller, but you don't get eaten alive quite as much when it's a percentage. Now, if you're saying, though, that the 1-3 is constantly, say, 2 to 3 players, and then they're taking, I guess it doesn't really matter with a rake. I mean, they're taking up the maximum anyways. I don't think that the number of people that call here is necessarily like a consideration, or excuse me, the open size is necessarily consideration when we're looking at this. I think it's just more of a function of, if you put a lot of hours in, I would try to say this is the easiest thing that you can do. Try to keep track of the amount of pots that you win over the course of a session. Whether it's like, say you play like a 6-hour session and you write down and you win like 3 pots an hour. So over the course of, say, 6 hours, you win like 20 pots. And then you say, maybe at like 2-3, I'm paying like $4 per hand. And maybe at 2-5, I'm playing the full $5 per hand. So at 2-5, it costs me $100. At 1-3, it costs me $80 over those 6 hours. And then look at it as a function of average stack size. Look at the money that you pay basically per hour as a function of effective stack sizes, or the average stack size in the table. And that kind of gets you the answer of how big rate consideration is in your game. Now, obviously, the quality of players is a big factor too. I mean, it's really, really hard to make more money at 1-3 500 cap versus 2-5 1K cap, but it's possible if the level of competition is that much better at 2-5. Now, knowing MGM National Harbor, there are also larger games running all the time, right? Don't they have a 5-10 game that always runs?
Oh yes, yes, 510 and also other forms of low limit games.
So if you're in a room where there's always a larger game running than 2-5 on a regular basis, the 2-5 game's not going to be that tough. You know why? I'm sure you can figure out why that is, right?
Yeah, because all the good players will move over to 510.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So you're not going to have like superstars, like really, really tough players at 2-5. So if you were to ask me in this setup, I would definitely encourage you to play 2-5, because I don't think the competition's going to be that good, because there's a higher leveled game that sort of sucks up the good players and sticks them in there. If you were playing in where this was the biggest game in the room, like sometimes like clubs like Ohio and stuff like that, it actually might be a consideration, where you could even make a case where you could say, I actually could make more money than 1-3. Or if the buy-in structures were similar, like if it was 1-3 match, or the 1-3 was like a 1K cap and the 2-5 was like a 2K cap. If you had a setup where 1-3 was like a 1K cap and 2-5 was a 2K cap, and there was tougher competition in 2-5, I could actually see you making more money at 1-3. So I know your question was kind of like about the sort of the rate considerations and stuff like that. It's always going to be a consideration at 1-3, because again, you're still, even if you're only paying $4 towards the rake versus $5 towards the rake at 2-5, it's that much more of a percentage of average stack.
Right, I get it.
But it's not as bad as a flat drop across the board like it is in California. Now, again, I'm assuming the 100% give back for the promos, which is probably not 100%. And that could, I don't know what the administration fee is, but that's why I said, I mean, listen, we got a whole podcast. Michael G does a podcast, right? Race to the $5 blind level. If you're a serious recreational player and you want to make some decent money playing poker, I always encourage people, especially in this setup, to move up to the $5 blind level, especially where there's a bigger game running, just because you can just go up there. You don't have to buy in for the maximum. You can buy in for the minimum. I mean, a lot of times there's games that are set up where it's like a 1-3 game where maybe the buy-in's like 3 to 500, and then the 2-5 is like, or maybe a 1-3 100 to 300, and then the 2-5 is like 300 to 1,000. You can go and play 2-5 and buy in for 300 the first few sessions and get your feet wet. I mean, it's a little bit boring. It's mostly pre-flop, but I think sort of we've uncovered that I think you're in a good spot just because of the way that good players are distributed throughout the room, not necessarily the rate considerations at MGM National Harbor. So,
Very good. Thank you so much.
all right. Thank you very much.